Next month, in November, I will have been a believer for 25 years. I was baptized not long before Jacob was born, November 21st, 1993. And as you can imagine, as most newcomers, I was very zealous for the Lord. And so I remember shortly after I became a believer, the town that bordered Naperville was Aurora, and there's a big river that goes through Aurora. And in Illinois, you couldn't go gambling. The casinos were illegal. And so some lawyer found a loophole that said that you couldn't have casino on property, but if it was on the water, then you could have a casino. So there's a river that goes through Aurora, so they got an old river boat that kind of had the big paddle wheel on it. I mean, it was an old one, and they turned it into a casino. And so they had a little dockway across there and a set of doors, and I was going to lock myself to the doors. I was so opposed to it, and it was all that Tammy could do to talk me down. You know, you've got kids, you're going to get thrown in jail, and all the stuff that goes along with it, but that's how strongly. So everything was so black and white. Now, this past week, don't raise your hands. This is a screenshot off of my phone. And I want you to notice that that number is not million, that's what? Billion with a big B. $1.6 billion. Record jackpot for a lottery ever. Did you think about it? Surely you had to think all the ways that you would spend your money. And if you ask me, Craig, is it okay to play? You know I told you, as long as you tithe, I don't care. Right? So you thought about all the ways you'd spend that money. You thought about all the good you'd do for your family members. You pay off your kids' house, you send grandkids to college, you buy a new car for your loved one. And you daydreamed all week long, and that lotto number kept growing, right? It was 700 million, then it was 800 million, then they said it might break $1 billion. It's 1.6 billion, and you woke up Wednesday morning. How'd you feel?
Had to go to work.
You had to go to work. You had to go to work. And, of course, you know what? When you're thinking about the lotto, you know you're paying into the Hope Scholarship. So kids like Ben and Clay can get a good education, right? So you're doing something good for the community. So people ask me, Craig, will you let Tammy play the lotto? I mean, listen, all jokes aside, I still have $100,000 in student loans, right? I'm paying $640 a month for years, and it's just barely coming down. So I know she'd pay off my student loans, but I said, no, Tammy doesn't get to play the lottery.
Oh, boy.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, yeah.
I know you're wondering, did I play the lottery, and I'll let you know later on, but I've never done a scratch-off before. Scratch-off tickets, I've never done them before. Carl shaking his head, yes, he has. Yeah, have you done scratch? I've never done any before, so I picked up a couple today just to help you understand the, there's a little bit of adrenaline behind it when you do it, right? I mean, the thought about it. So I decided I'd just get 2 tickets, and if I could get someone to scratch them off, Gunner, you'll scratch them off? You'll scratch one off? Okay. If you'll tithe on the money you win on it, you can have what's left. Right? So, all right, Caleb, you guys scratch that one
Can
off.
I say something here?
Sure.
Somebody asked a minister in Colonial Heights if one of his people played the lottery and won and gave money to the church, would he accept it? He said, well, the devil's had it long enough.
My dad will need a quarter or something, help them scratch it off and help them read it and do it. So, all right, kids, scratch it off. Let's see what you got. You need a quarter or a key off a keychain, anything like that. It feels kind of exciting, doesn't it? That's probably why I don't do it. I don't have that kind of energy. What? 3 to 5,000?
No, 35,000.
35,000? That can't be right.
Is this real?
That cannot be.
Take
Yeah,
that.
there's no way.
Take that up there.
I want it back. You know what I said before? Forget it.
35,000.
Well, congratulations. I hope you use it towards your college. 35,000. Way to go, parents.
Is it real? Craig.
Big cheater is what he is. Yes, go for him.
Just read the rules out loud on the back. Read them, Kellen.
It says winning prizes 1, 5, 25, 50. Maybe claimed wherever lottery tickets are sold. Winning,
There you go. That's all you need to know.
Winning tickets of 100 or more must be sent by mail in person to the Money Fairy at 123 Nowhere Drive in Make Believe Land. Valid only in your dreams.
Aw.
Any resemblance to a real or implied lottery ticket is what makes it fun. This ticket for entertainment purposes only. Thanks for being a good sport. Odds of winning 0 in 10,000. So,
Okay. All right. Sorry. If you thought I was going to encourage kids to do the scratch off, you guys are really doing bad. All right. Well, okay. So let's get back to rationalizing the lottery. If you've read your Bible and you got to the book of Acts where they're talking about the church, surely you know how after Judas had hung himself, the apostles gambled to replace him, right? Acts chapter 1, does anyone remember how they're trying to choose between two guys? You never remember who the other guy is because he doesn't get chosen. You remember that? They prayed and said, "You, Lord, know the hearts of all. Show which one of these two you've chosen to take his place in this ministry and the apostleship from which Judas turned aside and to go his own way." And they did what? They cast lots for them, and the lot fell on Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles. So, right there, that rationalizes we should be gambling. That's part of God's plan, isn't it? I've actually heard people make that defense. I have. It's not gambling. There's nothing financial on the line, right? Nobody is betting, and it wasn't about a profit. Well, maybe he is prophesying sometime down the line. Different type of profit. It's non-profit, right? They're not trying to make money. So we can't. You're going to have a hard time trying to go to the Bible to make a case that, yes, I should try to gamble. Now, why is this really on my mind? Last week's big 1.6 billion jackpot for the lotto. I know everyone's thinking about it. And I didn't realize this. I guess I live under a rock. There's just a screenshot up on my tablet. Jacob and I did a pump job up in Bristol last week, and I saw all of these yard signs that, in a sense, said, "Say no to the casino." So I guess there is a mall, which is going the way of most malls in America. Right? They're kind of dying out. And in Bristol, they're going to turn it into a casino. So I just did a screenshot. What I want to draw your attention to is 84,900 results just from Bristol Casino Mall. There's a lot out there on the internet. But Bristol Casino backers contribute, is it 200 million or 200,000 to House Speaker's? Oh, okay. Anyway, so developers propose Bristol Casino. Thousands rally against Bristol Casino. So I think in our community in the Tri-Cities, it's going to be on a lot of people's minds. Gambling, lottery, casinos, and all that. So the number one question that I think we have to ask when it comes to the lottery, the lotto, casinos, and stuff like that, is having money a sin? to have and to possess wealth? Is this what we're like when we have a lot of money? You remember Gollum? He was, just, you cringed when you see him, or unless you read the books, and it's a different imagery, I thought. But when you watch the movies, he's just very despicable. He's just slimy, he's greasy, he seems so possessive. Is that what it's like to have money? So, go back in your Old Testament and think of some of the great heroes of faith. Abraham, he's the father of faith. What was his financial status? He was beyond rich, right? He's just filthy rich in our standards of today. Jacob, eventually, right? He builds up over 14 years. Pretty good sized herd, right? He's considered very wealthy. Joseph, although his brothers sell him into slavery, he becomes second only to Pharaoh. You don't think he wasn't wealthy? Right? Extremely wealthy. David, he had Solomon. Man, people would come from all over the world and bring him apes and peacocks and chunks of gold, and he was very wealthy. How about Job? Oldest book in the Bible. When you read the story of Job, how wealthy is he? And at the end, after he goes through all the suffering, he's twice as wealthy as he was at the beginning of the story. So maybe being wealthy might not be a sin, but I know somewhere in the Bible it says that money is the root of all evil. Isn't that what it says? No, that's not what it says. The Bible doesn't say money is the root of all evil. Godliness with great contentment, or with contentment, is great gain. We brought nothing into the world, right? We can't take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we'll be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation. And the lottery never contributes to that, right? Okay. Into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. It's not money that's evil. And I wanted to play Pink Floyd's Money, but unless I could find a radio edit version of that, I wouldn't want to play that in church. But that's a great song. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It's through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pains. It's the love of money. Money is not a sin. Being wealthy is not a sin. And there's so many wealthy people that are considered heroes of faith. It's the love. So how do I get a better perspective on that? If Paul is saying I should be content with food and clothing, and that if I desire riches because of all this kind of problems, how do I find some balance and perspective on, hey, I see some people who are blessed in the Bible, very wealthy. Wealth can cause problems. How do I balance that? Well, what Sandy read before I got up to speak, I think brings the best balance and perspective on this. Ecclesiastes, Solomon says in verse 10, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. It's vanity. It's chasing after the wind. It's fruitless. It's pointless. If you love money so much, you'll never have enough. No matter how comfortable you are, no matter how much you have in the bank, if that's where your heart is, there is no such thing as enough. When the goods increase, so your wealth, your livestock, everything you have, who's going to eat them? What advantage do you have? There's more than you can ever spend, right? Sweet, though, on contrast, is the sleep of the laborer. The guy who works for his daily wages is what he's talking about. The farmhand who comes. He makes his money for the day, and that night he goes home. Whether he's got a lot or little, he's going to sleep. But the rich, man, they're always worried, right? It's a grievous evil I've seen under the sun. Riches kept by their owner to his own hurt. The riches are lost in a bad venture. He's the father of a son who has nothing in his hand. As he comes, and I think this is kind of what Paul is quoting, verse 15, as he comes from his mother's womb, so shall he go again. Naked as he came, he'll take nothing for his toil that he can carry in his hand. You know the old saying, you never see a hearse hauling a U-Haul. Right? Okay. This is a grievous evil, just as he came, so shall he go. What gain is there to him who toils for the wind? His days, he's going to eat in darkness and vexation, sickness, anger. But here comes the balance. Here's what makes sense. So Solomon has looked at all this. Oh man, what a problem. But here's what I've seen to be good and fitting. To eat and drink. Amen. I could just stop there. Right? Eat and drink. I'm down with that, right? Find enjoyment in all the toil in which one toils under the sun the few days of his life that God has given. So whatever it is that you found to be your occupation, your work, your career, you put your heart into it, you work hard, and you enjoy the fruit of your labor. Everyone, verse 19, also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, this is a gift from God. He'll not much remember the days of his life because God keeps them occupied with joy. The balance then is, if you work hard, you should play hard. If you work for it, you should enjoy it. And if you put the effort in and you're doing well, you'll sleep well. If it's something you don't put the effort in and you're so in love with it, it's going to keep you up at night and it's going to ruin you. That's pretty plain and simple. All right. Have you ever read any of the studies or seen any of the news articles of what happens to some families when they win the lottery? You remember the guy in Texas? They killed his daughters, kidnapped part of his family. I haven't read the statistic lately, but almost 90% of the people who win the lottery are broke like in 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. How does that happen? You got millions, you got fat stacks, you got cash you'll never live long enough to spend, and 2 years later you are bankrupt. How does that happen? I don't get that, but it's true. And people that win the lottery, now maybe they're just saying it to the rest of us because they don't want us to be jealous. Time and time again they say how miserable they are, how their life is worse off than it was before. Gambling is stupid, I'm just going to tell you. It's an addiction for some, but I think for everyone, it's a waste of money. But back to the $1.6 billion jackpot. Is playing the lottery a sin? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's harmless. The buying of a ticket or 10 tickets. Now, I have heard the lottery called welfare gambling. You know, people that are below the poverty level who can't get to a casino or don't have them, but they'll get $1 or $2 and go to the convenience store. And it's very sad, I think, in that culture. Buying the ticket's not the sin. I'll tell you where I think the sin lies. And it's in the dreaming and the scheming. You buy that ticket and you dream, and here's what you dream. I don't care how you filled in the blanks. I don't care if you're going to Tahiti for a year. I don't care if you're going down the Rhine River and you're going to enjoy that. Here's the lie. My life would be better if. That's the lie, people. As if God has not already blessed you. You've got family, some that you love, some that you don't. Some who love you and some who don't. You've got some bit of health. You may not be as healthy as you want to be or as you once were, but you have something. You have a spark of life within you. I don't care how big that flame has been fanned and how small it is. You have something that there is someone who doesn't have. You've got shoes on your feet. You've got a roof over your head. Paul says, I could be content with food and clothing. The lie is my life will be better if. That's where the sin lies. I don't have a problem if people play the lottery. The problem I have, the problem I think that hurts us, and I think the best word to encapsulate it with is escapism. You want to escape the reality that you're in now. God has put you in your reality, and your reality is built up from consequences of choices that you have made. Those worlds mesh together. Some of it is from God's doing, some of it is from your own. You participate. Biblical truth. You participate in God's creation with Him. Fact. I don't always do what God wants me to do. Fact. God has a great plan for me. Those don't always mesh, but it's not His fault. But to try to escape reality is to try to avoid the consequences of your choice and the path that God has in plan. Well, maybe it's God's plan that I win the lotto because I would do so much good with it. That may be. I don't know. I'm going to highly doubt it. But I don't think you're dreaming about all the soup kitchens and clothing closets you would find. I know there is something in that dream that's remotely selfish. So that's where I think the sin lies. And I'll tell you something else. When it comes to lotto, I'm going to say it's a bunch of crap to say you have lucky numbers. Okay? Everyone knows what a talisman is, right? I used to read a lot of fiction when I was a kid, Conan the Barbarian type stuff. And if you've read anything like with swords and sorcery stuff like that, there's always a magic touch piece, a talisman, right? So here's a screenshot, 444,400,000 results for talisman. An object typically inscribed ring or stone thought to have magical powers and to bring good luck. It's an object someone believes holds magical properties, brings good luck to the possessor. So I don't remember what the movie was, but I watched it about 5 years ago. It's really good. Robert De Niro is an Eagles fan. And I think it's Silver Lining Notebook, maybe was the name of the movie. But he's an Eagles fan. And if his kid is not there when they're watching the game, he thinks the Eagles are going to lose. And he's got like a lucky ball cap or a t-shirt. And he's got to hold that. If I hold this, my team is going to win. And of course, everybody's gambling on the game and losing tons of money. But anyway, this foolishness. You know, a lucky rabbit's foot wasn't so lucky for that rabbit. When you stop to think about it. Or you can still have it attached. So, at the end of the day, to try to sum this all up before I get into the sermon, at the end of the day, I'm done. Jesus says you can't serve two masters. Right? You're going to love one, cling to one, hate the other. So if any of us trust in chance, and we hope in it, and we depend on it, and we dream about it, then we're not trusting in God.